Hi, this is John Hand, and the Pulsing Cinema movie of the day is Two Evil Eyes. George Romero and Dario Argento do an anthology film. Well, two stories. They split it up. The two masters of evil do two movies. An Italian production produced by, I believe, Claudio Argento. And I think that's where primarily the money came from, where the financing came from for this thing. The idea, I think, originally was to do like 3 or 4 directors, was to have Argento and Romero, and then like John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper, or something, kind of like an early Masters of Horror. But they ended up just doing, this 2 stories based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe. George Romero's first film, Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar, which is just like a 2 or 3 page story from Poe. It's just about a man dying while he's under hypnosis, and because he's in hypnosis, he's kept in this weird this weird thing between life and death. He's in this weird area, and then they take him out of hypnosis, and then the body like decomposes in this extravagant fashion. That was the original story, and that's pretty much it. In the movie, it's, George Romero, it's like blue collar stuff. It's like this woman, Adrienne Barbeau, is married to this rich guy, and the rich guy is dying, and Adrienne Barbeau has her doctor boyfriend. She's a cheater, and she has the doctor boyfriend hypnotize this rich dude in order to have him sign away all of his monies to her in a will, right? So all of that stuff goes along, but the guy Valdemar dies under hypnosis, and when he dies under hypnosis, he finds himself in a weird area between life and death, where he can still communicate with the living, but then he's in the afterworld, and then there are things in the afterworld that want to come out, and so it is kind of like a zombie film in some ways. There's some areas at the end which are kind of semi-zombie, but they're more like spectral ghost stuff, But there is, I guess, one zombie, or a couple zombies, really, when you think about it. So, a good film, just a tight little George Romero movie with some excellent effects, excellent special effects from Tom Savini, just backing him up on both of these. The Black Cat, which is the second film, Dario Argento, starring none other than Harvey Keitel. None other than the Harvey, the Keitel to the H to the K. Harvey plays this crime scene photographer who he gets into a weird situation with his wife, and he has to cover up a murder, and then there's a black cat and people being walled up, and didn't John Amos show up in this movie, and people being hung, and people being stuck on poles, and the pole going through their ass and through their mouth, and guillotine shit, and nude dummies on guillotines, and I don't want to necessarily spoil it for you, but that's pretty much what the movie is. It's just this series of this kind of wacko special effects here. A few wacko, as the budget would allow, a few wacko special effects showcases, and Harvey Keitel acting like a wacko. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't really have anything to do with the Black Cat, or I don't, other than just the general paranoia. But a good film. I love. This to some people hate this movie, but I love it. It's a meeting of the minds. Romero and Argento. Romero, who had helped Argento who had helped Romero finance and produce Dawn of the Dead, comes back. Romero is shooting on the stomping grounds of Pittsburgh, and Argento is now in Pittsburgh and shooting. At this point, he was probably also prepping Trauma at this point, or I don't know if he had such a good experience with Pittsburgh, they went back and shot Trauma in Pittsburgh. But a cool city, little cameos by John Amos and Martin Balsam, actually, as well. And was that Kim Hunter as well? I think from Psycho, wasn't she also? Because there was this weird Psycho thing where they were the next door neighbors, where Harvey Keitel was doing all this shit, and they were like, whatever was going on. But I love the Romero segment. I love the Romero segment a little more than the Argento segment, because the Romero segment actually kind of makes sense, or it made sense to me as a kid. I still kind of like it, and the special effects are very kind of special. And it's good. The Argento sequence has some, again, is kind of extravagant and is Argento-y, but it's not as stylish as he used to be, and it's just a little more of a hodgepodge. It's just a little more of a where is this going? Whereas the Romero segment is definitely in that tradition of Tales from the Crypt and what have you, and it's definitely of course. Or Tales from the Dark Side. It was in the tradition of both, A good film. I like watching it. I like watching the Blue Underground DVD. I got it as soon as it came out, and it's kind of a comfort movie. When I move somewhere new, I'll pop in Two Evil Eyes. Of course, it came out on Blu-ray a couple years ago, but I'm so happy with the original DVD. I know there's some problems with the sound or the audio. They did a remix in surround, and I think they missed some of the audio tracks, or there's some difference or something. But it's personally never bothered me. I mean, I can watch the movie and it's no issue. And what I love, one of my favorite things on the DVD is the home movies with Tom Savini, where somebody basically drove with Tom Savini from the set to his house, and then Tom Savini just gives a little mini tour of his house, and it's like about 20 or 30 minutes, and it's just it feels like you're hanging out with Tom Savini. It's so great. It's a great addendum to scream greats and horror effects if you're a Tom Savini aficionado. So yeah, Two Evil Eyes. I don't know. I don't think there's really anything else for me to say. It's just a movie. I love it. It's a great kind of demarcation point from the 80s to the 90s. This was like 1990, so horror was changing, and there was a change in the guard. These guys were Romero and Argento. They were kind of lords of the 80s. They were just 80s, and then the 90s began. The 90s began with Two Evil Eyes and some good shit. And then it just kind of went downhill to an extent. I mean, Scream isn't a bad film. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is not a bad film. But they're just not. They're not like the 80s. It's just it's a different era. It was a different era. But in any case, Two Evil Eyes, good stuff.